Do you remember this show? Or maybe, does this guy's voice sound familiar to you?
You just gonna stand there and accept the outcome?
Whether you remember it clearly, a little bit, or have never even heard of it, I thought it'd be nice to make a little video about my obsession with this show when I was little. I'm talking about Tenkai Knights. You can use this video to go down a little nostalgia trip, or get ideas for a TV show that your little sibling can watch, or even you can watch it. Whatever it is, I just want to share my love for this show. Tenkai Knights aired on Cartoon Network back in late 2013. Hard to believe that was over a decade ago. It had a total of 52 episodes that went all the way up to December 2014. And man, oh man, I became severely addicted to watching this show. I lived and breathed everything Tenkai Knights. I would watch every single episode the second they aired on TV. I hated waking up early for school, but I gladly woke up at 6 a.m. every Saturday just to watch the newest episode. They had reruns of old episodes every day too, and I'd watch all of them even if I've already seen them over 100 times. I wrote in a journal my thoughts and predictions about each episode. I bought the toys, which are not Lego by the way. I know they look like Legos, but they're actually Ionics. And get this, I even got the game for it on Nintendo 3DS, which actually came with a limited edition shiny red Bravenwolf figure. You don't understand how much this meant to me. I was going insane for this. I don't really think I was a target demographic because it's more for elementary school boys, and I was neither of those things in 2014, in case you couldn't tell. But for some reason, I still just loved it so much. Now, in case you're new to all this or you just want a refresher, Tenkai Knights is about these 4 ordinary kids who suddenly find out that they've been chosen to become warriors in another world. Those warriors are called Tenkai Knights. The other world, which is called Quarton, has a bad guy that's trying to take control of it. So every time he launches an attack, these 4 kids get a summoning signal that Quarton needs their help. Then they run over to a secret portal, transform into the Tenkai Knights, and get transported to Quarton to fight the bad guys. Once the fight is over, they come back to Earth and resume their daily lives. It is the typical story of having a secret superhero identity, having good guy versus bad guy fights, struggle a bit, and then win using the power of friendship or some random lesson they just learned a few minutes ago. So then you may wonder, well, what's so good about this show then? That sounds like every other kids show that exists. Why not just watch Ninjago or even Nexo Knights? Like, yes, I know this sounds super ordinary and Ninjago is like leagues above everything, but Tenkai Knights is still very good. Hear me out. For only 52 episodes, I think the show does a really good job at blending action and adventure with some emotional suspense here and there. There is a good deal of heart in this show. I don't see it as a quick cash grab just to sell their toy line. Okay, maybe a little bit. But the show does have decent world building, interesting characters, and secrets that you may or may not get answers to as you watch. Disclaimer, I will not do a deep dive analysis on Tenkai Knights, but I will get into spoiler territory, so you've been warned. Let me start by talking about my favorite characters for a bit. I love them all, I actually truly do, but like, come on now, don't deny that these 3 are the coolest. Guren, or Bravenwolf, is the unwritten but very obvious leader. He's kind of the main character out of the 4 because, you know, the red-colored guy is always the most important one. He gets the most attention and love in the show, which I kind of wish wasn't the case. The other characters do get their own episodes to shine in, but the whole plot is more geared towards Guren for like no real reason, especially the ending. Despite that, he's still my favorite. He has so many good episodes. I think my favorite would have to be the hoverboard one because it showed him actually being upset for the first time. I even drew a picture of him on my school binder back in the day. My classmates always used to ask me who that is, and I just embarrassingly reply, oh, he's just from some show. I was a proud fan, but it did get kind of awkward when nobody knew who he was. My actual favorite character is someone outside of the 4 Knights though. How can we not talk about Gen? You might recognize his voice as the English dub of Sasuke from Naruto.
You asked Sakura for advice when she was here? You just gonna stand there and accept the outcome? Aren't you gonna do anything about it?
They're the same, and their characters are also kind of the same. Gen's family was messed up somehow, and he wants revenge on the world by trying to get as much power as possible. He doesn't like talking or making friends with anybody. Power is the only thing on his mind. I don't know, sounds really familiar. But anyways, Gen is still the coolest guy in this show, and every moment he's on screen is bound to be a banger. I know he looks like the typical dark, emo, edgy guy that every show has, but like whatever, he's just really cool, okay? I didn't like his attitude at all in the beginning. I do admit that it was really unnecessarily mean, but he got better as the show went on. I didn't even want him to become a friend of the Knights. He was cool as he was. Speaking of Gen, we have to talk about Beni, right? Beni, or Venetta, has the same evil goal as Gen, which is to obtain power and destroy the world because her childhood wasn't so fun. But she was much more cunning. She openly manipulated and betrayed people. She'd always talk sassy and mysteriously, and I don't know, something about that was just really interesting to watch. She's a villain, but I was always rooting for her. She wanted to see people suffer, and I wanted to watch her succeed in doing that for some reason. I have nothing in common with her at all, but she was just cool. She hated the concept of friendship, and in a show where friendship and teamwork is a huge key component, seeing her starkly contrast that was very satisfying to watch. Unfortunately, her character development was very quick. She was always alone, and suddenly she became a good person. And by sudden, I mean it only took one episode. Yeah, 48 episodes of her hating everyone, and suddenly one episode made her change her mind. She became a good person instantly, and she admitted it herself.
That was it?
That was it. Funny, isn't it? How the littlest things can change a person's whole point of view. Corny, right?
I always hated this about her. I never wanted her to change, and if she did, it shouldn't have been that quickly. But either way, I still love Gen and Beni's characters so much. Now, about the story itself, there are some good parts, but also some bad, of course. Let's talk about the good first. The show has some good suspenseful moments, especially when it involves a dragon. So the plot is that you have to collect 5 dragon cubes, which will then summon a dragon. And no, this is not like Dragon Ball. That dragon can be good or evil, depending on if you use a white or black key on it. The words good and evil are overly simplified, obviously, but it's a kid's show, so we don't need to get deep on that. Collecting the cubes was honestly a really simple thing, but finding the keys was very interesting. There was a lot of manipulation, betrayal, and emotional suspense with it, especially towards the end of the show when the stakes get really high. I would say those are probably my most favorite arcs of the show. Another thing I really appreciated was the fact that the show actually still gave attention to their normal daily lives outside of fighting. Tenkai Knights always regularly incorporated school into the story, meeting up with friends at school, playing sports, doing homework, studying for exams. They really did make school feel present in the show. They also regularly brought up other life activities like spending time with their family, shopping, working, hanging out at friends' houses. Like, it wasn't just always action and fighting all the time. The show balanced it pretty nicely with other daily life. Many other shows will usually straight up ignore school as if it doesn't exist and never talk about anything else besides their mission or whatever. I really appreciate that Tenkai Knights did not follow that formula, because you gotta remember that these are kids who do need school and they do have families and other lives besides being secret superheroes. Alright, now time for the bad parts. A big chunk of this show pretty much runs in a straight line, and once you pick up on that pattern, it gets a little boring. Like, for example, an episode will start off with one of them being frustrated that they can't get a power-up. Then they'll struggle really hard in some random little battle, then have a self-realization moment, like they gotta protect their friends or something, and then boom, they get a power-up at the end. And that power-up only helps them in that particular episode, because the next episode after that, it feels like they forgot everything and they lose again. It's like, what was all of that build-up for? And speaking of build-up, can we talk about how long the transformations are? Don't worry, I counted. The portal transformations are over 1 minute, Titan mode is 1.5 minutes, and the racer intros are over 2 minutes. Not to mention that these are only about the 4 knights. There are other characters that are doing this too, including fusions and all of that. And so when everything stacks up, it's like half of the episode is gone just by transformations. And you know that anime rule that you cannot interrupt a transformation. You just can't. I know everything I've said so far isn't just exclusive to Tenkai Knights, and many other anime do that, but I feel like Tenkai Knights was a bit excessive with it. And speaking of excessive, the dialogue. Okay, just to clarify, I do love all the characters. I think they're very charming and I love them. But sometimes they can kind of get on my nerves. For example, Taxa. Taxa is a gamer. He loves video games, and he will find every single opportunity to make a gaming or tech reference in every single thing he does. For example,
if we don't get that white key in our inventory, we're never gonna beat this level.
he didn't have to say inventory or level. I know that's his personality. I mean, even I like video games, but it just sounds so weird to hear that in like a totally normal, unrelated conversation. Then Chuki. He's the sports guy. He loves sports. So he will make a sports analogy in every single scenario possible. Like this.
That's right. Work then and it'll work again. The four of us are split wide left. Beeg fakes it up the middle, and when the defense bites, we take the pitch out and do an end around past their right tackle and into the end zone.
Like, I know it's their personalities, but literally like every 3 minutes they would be saying something like this. In fact, I rewatched the entire show recently and I actually counted. Chuki made a sports reference 149 times, and Taxa made a gaming reference 201 times. Now I might have missed a couple of them, so it might be more than this, but for 52 episodes, that's actually crazy. But it's fine, they're really charming characters, so I forgive them. So yeah, I could talk about the show a lot more. There's a lot more good things and not so good things I could say, but I don't want to like make this too long. But I do want to briefly discuss the game that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Tenkai Knights Brave Battle for the Nintendo 3DS. Even though I loved the show, the game was just not good. Dare I say, it was terrible. The cutscenes were literally slideshows, and the gameplay felt like a free mobile game, except it's not free, it's $40. Oh man, I remember sitting down to play this, I was so hype, and then I just immediately got blasted by disappointment. In the end, I never finished the game. I feel so bad that I basically made my mom spend $40 on this figure, which I had a lot of good memories with, but like, the game was just not good. It just wasn't. I'm sorry. So yeah, even though the game was terrible, the show is still really good. If any of you have watched Tenkai Knights, please do let me know, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only person on the planet who has ever watched this. I know you're all out there, I just personally have never seen this show ever brought up in discussion. And hey, if you have a younger sibling that you want to introduce anime to, besides Pokemon and Beyblade, which are obviously the better options, then Tenkai Knights can be a good pick. There's no cursing, excessive violence, blood, or like anything bad. It has a pretty solid story, good villains, and it teaches the power of teamwork. For only 52 episodes, you can't go wrong with it. It's available on Tubi, Peacock, Roku, Amazon Prime, and others. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about Tenkai Knights for over 13 minutes now, wow. I hope you have an amazing day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!